You are now 2 ages behind your opponent. Looks like Viper is here again on this channel. This time, looking to take on Dash? I'm sorry, guys. I don't. This language isn't my forte. So we will be calling them Red. I think that's a reasonable run. Good old Red over here is going up against the Snake Man. Now, of course, Viper sitting at the top of the leaderboards. Second place, actually, right now. Close to actually surpassing Beastie if he has a good day today. His opponent, however, I've still been trying to find. Now, once again, this probably goes back to my ignorant, piggish English ways of not being able to really read how that reads. But I'm struggling to find this person. It's probably that I've scrolled past them already, as we have a few different accounts written in these type of characters on the top 100. But I would assume that they are around the top 100, considering they are going up against the second seed in the world. And there are a bunch of players online right now that are within the top 100. So, enough talk of 100, right? We're going to talk about who's going to go from 1 to 100 in this one. Who's going to have the pacing in a match on Dry Arabia between the Rus and the Chinese. It's an interesting matchup as well, because I think the Chinese have kind of a lot of obvious value into going multi-TCs, but they can struggle to find that value on open maps like Dry Arabia. But the Rus also have a lot of exploitable value, mainly depending on where this bad boy is right here. You see this? This is my my sister. Oh, okay, I'm not going to do my sister like that. That's a mean comment to make. This is... No. This is just a boar, guys. We're not going to be mean today. Good old Bori here. Benny the boar, just sitting on minding his own business. He's got an annoying wolf in the neighborhood that won't leave him alone. But eventually, he's going to have a lot of annoying people with shivs coming in to stab at him. Because this ladder right here on the Rus is going to want to tap into that. Remember that the boar are incredible for gathering rates on land. In fact, they are the best gathering rate on land, only surpassed by shoreline fish, which you cannot access here on Dry Arabia, if it wasn't obvious from the name. So really valuable thing to play towards, because if you do play into the boar, which you go towards about 4.5 minutes after getting wheelbarrow, it allows you to extract 2,000 food in about 5 minutes, which is an insane amount to be grabbing with such a small quantity of villagers. Only 8 villagers needed to get that maximum gathering rate. And also the positioning allows for hunting camp placements, a secondary TC expansion maybe. I don't know if we're going to necessarily see secondary TC though. I can see a one in which Viper just tries to go ultra aggressive here. Because I think in this matchup, like the longer the game goes, the better it is for the Chinese. I think they're looking for a later timing here. And I noticed there's some confusion on the ranks, by the way. Someone's trying to say that the Viper is 132nd in ranked. Not according to my data. He is 2nd in ranked, and then quick match, he is 3rd. So I just want to clear that up for people. I think there's been some kind of buggy loggings going on in AoE4 World and everything the last few days. But yeah, it's very much a big challenge here. And you would expect that out of Snake Man, right? Like, this guy was looking dominant in Golden League. And I'm expecting him to go very far when we reach in the playoffs this weekend. But this person, kind of the unknown. This could easily be a Smurf. All I know is that they are avid TC enjoyer. Oh, sorry, I misread. Apologies. Chat was actually covering me. Viper's opponent is 132nd in ranked. Thank you. Shout out to Camion402 for that. My brain is working weird. I'm not going to lie. We're approaching the hunger point in the stream. I probably should have eaten a snack. Maybe if I just reach in and get one of those juicy little sheep over there. We are going to get the Golden Gate build up. And there is a prepped opportunity to shift out. We'll just have to see if he takes it. I do like the ball placement. I do think it's an accessible objective. And considering your opponent isn't going for the Barbican rush, right, I don't expect him to actually be dropping any sort of aggressive defensive structure. It should be more or less a freebie. In fact, I think the important detail for Viper right now is to get that info, because he's playing quite a blind game. He's brought out these additional scouts, as you do with the Rus, but he's not getting info on his opponent's base. Instead, he's more focused on denying vision and denying equity, returning the Chinese base. Ooh, 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 give him, give him, give him. Too close, too close. Need to move a little bit sooner. Would be nice to get an extra sheep there. I don't know why I turned into a monkey there midway through that. There are no apes in this game. Only astute high-level players. And a Wooden Fortress is going to be the choice. So this is starting to look like Viper might not make the ball pull. But I speak too soon? He's just a fan of doing it the other way. So he is actually going to match the time at 4:30. He goes to the Wooden Fortress. No double broadaxe coming out early. It is only 7 people. And yeah, okay, now it makes sense. That's why I was confused by this. Like, usually you have the 8 people coming out. It looks like it's just a delay. So he's going to shift out. The cool thing you can do here, by the way, not only can you set this up for a nice placement near the double forest, but also you can... I had a feeling we were being too greedy. And now we get the confirmation. That was insanely greedy, to be honest. I think you just have to accept 1 tree line here. Like, 2, I'm not sure is going to work. And instead, he just wants it towards his base. I think the logic in Viper's mind is, like, if he pulls it to the north, it's further away from safety. This way, he can actually connect his base towards this proxy ball. Now, the cool thing that he can do, he can gather up all the food. If he felt like he was going to be aggressive, he could have went for the Wooden Fortress, but you're not going to get that against the Chinese, so instead he goes for full value in the Hunter Cabin first. Because he already set up this Wooden Fortress, he'll easily be able to afford the defenses in the next minute. Meanwhile, when we look on the other side, this is kind of problematic coming out from Red. He goes for the Barbican, so not even setting himself up really for kind of eco-booming, I'd say. He seems to be a little bit too defensive in my eyes. I don't feel like you're going to necessarily get aggressed by Viper in the next 2 to 3 minutes. And it feels like it would be better to just get the Imperial Academy first, get the additional floated tax generation, and then come back for the Barbican afterwards. We'll just have to see. I feel like if you're worried about your opponent getting aggressive as well, you need more than this. I don't think going just for the Barbican defense is going to stop Viper. If he chooses to all-out aggress, it's going to be a proxy base with double archery range into first ram, at which stage you don't really have much reprieve. And a lot of villages are being pulled. It looks like it's going to be the secondary TC. Should have known. It is Snake Man after all. If there's one thing he loves doing, it's taking economical advantages when they are handed to him, which is exactly what he's getting here. Not for long, because it looks like on the Chinese side there is going to be a town center drop around the back next to the deer as well. And after this, once he gets Imperial Academy, remember it's going to be 2.7 TCs versus 2. Now, you do get different economical advantages. You have always got that wood drop-off to kind of match up against the supervised Chinese. Get an extra 20% due to the wooden influence. But on top of that, you have the Golden Gate, which gives you good trades. There is a world in which I can see Viper maybe consider going into free TCs. It does feel a little bit greedy, though. I think the better meritable advantage you can get here is in the next 2 to 3 minutes, build up 2 archery ranges and just start applying pressure, because I don't think you want to drag this out into hyper late game. The Rus definitely have some upsides, and we've seen Viper especially exploit those upsides. In the late game, Streltsy comes to mind, right, being cheaper than any other gunpowder unit. But overall, I think the Chinese has a lot of upsides with Nesta Bees to counter out Streltsy in this matchup. How's Snake Man doing? I mean, we should be about, I'd say, I want to say he's done 600 to 800 food by now. Like, time-wise. He walked out at 4:30, started at 5:30. Like, he should be about halfway through at this stage. So, a lot of food being boosted into his eco, and that food is going to be put to good use. It's going to be the stable drop. He's already in the gold as well, which is why I like this. I actually prefer it when you do it with the secondary TC to be able to get the knights out. It feels like you're stretching your economy really thin when you do it all in one town center. Whereas this is going to allow you to scale quite effectively through the 10-20 minute mark. Without needing to necessarily get that kind of emphatic strike that cripples your opponent in that timer. Well, speaking of times, it's Song Dynasty time. And that means we are getting that reduced production time of 35% on each of these TCs, which will allow the Chinese player to now boost up an eco advantage. And this is where Viper needs to find a way to inject himself. A lot of vision coming out for him right now will give him the feedback he needs to actually know where to strike. And this is all the fault of the Chinese player, because he never actually went for the stables. He never went for any sort of defensive unit. You only had that initial scout. And this is where the Barbican feels frustrating to start with. I feel like this Barbican just slowed down his eco timings a little bit. He could have had additional gold being generated on these buildings if he went for Imperial Academy first. And I doubt he would have got raided. I kind of understand the reluctance, but I wonder if even just a secondary, like even an outpost instead here would have been good. And then the Barbican could have been flexed to a more aggressive location. God, this feels like one of the chiller starts of the game we've had, actually, so far. I don't think it's going to stay that way long, though, because you already see what Viper's doing. It's going to be a Castle Age rush. I think that's where you cap off. I could see a world in which he goes Imperial. Regardless of what I said about Nesta Bees, you have to reach that point, right? Like, you actually have to crack the castle and be in a strong point. Should Viper choose to Imperial Boom from here, he's looking hella strong. This is a pretty interesting way to use the ball because realistically, the reason he's able to achieve these quick timings is all the ball. The question is whether he feels like he can go Imperial straight away. I feel like this is the stage now with the ball drying up down to 750 food left, and you only having, you know, one extra set of deer soon. Maybe you just start realistically thinking about a farmland transition, because if you do rush into Imperial, I don't think you're going to have that wiggle room to still be gathering deer when you make that hard push into farms. This way, if you go castle, then push a few horse archers, you maintain midfield control, you lay your base for economical scaling, and then you push out. Because one upside Viper has right now is that the Chinese player has played to the backside. He's played to the back corner, so he's got limited space, limited resource. So if Viper just kind of creates a natural zone here, as you can see on the minimap, it means that he's just naturally going to be able to, like, essentially scale this into a late 40, 50-minute game, and the Chinese player is not going to have anything to fight back with. Which does kind of fit what Viper likes to do, right? We haven't really seen him as this player that rushes you in the first 20 minutes. I feel like that kind of meta has started to shift away a little bit, and Viper has never really fit that sort of role. He's very much an economical exploitation type player. If you give him an opportunity to boost his eco, he will take it. He will literally rip your hand off, in fact. You know, well, just to get at the rings that you're wearing, because this guy loves his relics and he loves his multi-TCs. And now that he's going to rush up the castle, you know he's moving for those relics. Abbey Trinity enable him to do so. Can be a little bit annoying against the Chinese if they get a good castle timing, but this is the worrisome detail. Look what's happened here. It's into the spears, double racks, and the archery range drop. This may be a mistake coming out from the Chinese side. I just don't think you do this, especially considering Viper knows. So Viper's going to exploit this to the fullest. He's going to be as greedy as possible, and he doesn't have to worry about being punished because he can see that the only thing you have is spears. Wow. Definitely a missing trick here. The spears are going to try to move out the relics. It looks like this one will be blocked off, but it's still going to be 4 relics for free. I don't see any way in which Red moves out and denies this from Viper. This is just free games. He'll be a bit frustrated he couldn't get 5, and in classical greedy Viper fashion, he'll at least begin by trying for that 5th one. But now you can just fall back. Like, he's pushing out these monks, right? They're pretty cheap. 20 food, 100 gold. You could go up to 3 pretty easily. He's only at 2 right now. I think he's just missed the opportunity to click again. That being said, he is going for that Imperial Age we were talking about, and he did set himself up the farms. This is so well played. It's really, really cool. Like, this is what I was talking about. He delayed it by about a minute so that he could get the farms down. Also, keep in mind that because you have the Golden Gate and you're gathering the gold, you can just trade for the wood beneficially, right? You can just trade 100 gold for 150 wood, and that insulates him now. He's got surplus farmland. He's still got reserve deer if you want to switch over to him early, and now he's going to have Imperial Age High Armory being boomed up fast here. The fast imp timing. This is going to be a pre-13 minute for Viper, which is going to completely catch his opponent off guard. The question mark is, what do you do then? Because look what he's been doing at the back of his base. He's now been insulating his economy. He's been layering it to prep himself for later timings. The problem is he's still he's still feudal. He isn't even Castle Age right now. Zhu Nu and Spearman. You are now 2 ages behind your opponent. 13 minutes of the game, it would be forgivable. But you already saw that Viper went for the castle. You already saw maybe only 1 or 2 knights max. Surely you have to have a feeling, an uneasy, unsettling feeling that something is going on here. And because he didn't act on those instincts, Viper is now miles ahead of the Chinese player here. And it's about to get mighty dangerous because it's instantly into the Streltsy. Viper! We said about this, right? We said the Streltsy offer up a big advantage at the beginning of Imperial. Should they actually both equally go up into Imperial at the same timing? It's a bit Chinese skewed because I think they benefit a lot from Nested Bees. They benefit a lot from Grenadiers. The game goes on. But you don't reach that point. You don't get an opportunity to. Viper is so far ahead that these Streltsy are about to massacre the Chinese army. Wow. Well, first Streltsy are going to be a little bit vulnerable. So he's going to peel back for the moment. Movement in. This is all in. This is all you have. This is all you are right now. You are a feudal age Russia, but not by choice. The choice was taken away by the Rus player in this game, because it's an Imperial Age Russia, and the Streltsy are going to start picking you apart. Trying to move in, Zhu Nu are going to be a frustration. Need to be careful. Viper, remember, it takes a long time to build this Streltsy, 35 seconds per unit, and he needs more archer ranges now. This may have been a little bit greedy, but Viper As long as there's no siege engineering, he doesn't have to worry, and he doesn't, because look, siege engineering is third in queue right now. Viper should have time to build up Streltsy defenses. He's going to have to sacrifice a lot of forward infrastructure in the meantime. Now the TC fire coming in. Remember, all these units, they don't have armor. They don't have a way of diving. That's also the other reason why the missile resistance is being prioritized over the siege engineering, because he can't afford to dive in otherwise. Onto the high armory. Torch is whipped out. It's going to take a long time to get through that, and that just doesn't look like enough. I mean, this is all superficial damage. Your opponent has 3 relics banked. He has 2 sacred sites. He's already built the monastery. He's going to bank even more relics. On top of that, he is scaling Streltsy. You have about 2 minutes to do some serious damage before this backfires. And the only hope he has right now is that he can boost up into castle at the timing when he's being pushed out of this base. Even that might not be good enough, though, because even if you reach castle, you're still a whole age behind Viper. Oh my, oh my. Mr. Snake Man, what have you got? Guns, guns, guns is his only answer right now. Streltsy, need to be careful. Zhugnu, oh, getting a lot of free shots here, but the Zhugnu, once they go down, this all falls apart. And that's the TC fire, that's the problem. High armory being targeted, but whoop-de-doo, he'll just rebuild it afterwards. This feels like kind of a sunken investment at this stage. I feel like right now you're just trying to throw away the Zhugnu and Spearman, do as much damage as possible, and buffer yourself in the meantime. And although he will do that, as I've already highlighted, he's a whole age behind, and he's still pushing more troops, so slow down his own timing to try and keep the pressure up. The concern, however, is if you can't keep engaging the Streltsy, the number will eventually go up. That's why he has to relentlessly keep engaging this, but look at the amount of archery ranges now. Viper, he wants to get that critical mass out. Streltsy are cheaper than hand cannoneers, but they're still pricey in their own right. 180 resource for a unit that only has 4 tower range. I mean, the Zhugnu will most definitely be in range with a superior 4.5. The double ram now, moving in. Streltsy will only do 5 damage per shot. But they are going to be giving freebies onto these rams, as it looks like he doesn't want to engage. The Streltsy are going to be a frustration. Remember, the Zhugnu have the superior range, means you can't even get the attack speed buff and the damage buffer from standing still for longer via static deployment. Chase in, baits him in deeper, kills off 1 or 2 villagers. Streltsy able to back off fully, though. And Spearman being baited to the side by the villagers means he can start to engage upon them. Line formation to stay away from the Zhugnu. Belly and Zhugnu moving in range, in fact. And the Streltsy are going to start to massacre through the light armored units. They are doing heavy damage. He needs to up the micro, though. He's targeting them down 1 by 1, when realistically, he could actually be doing it with like groups of 3 Streltsy here, which means the trades are still good. The Zhugnu are trading out well here. And it is buying time. Rams in under the secondary TC, but that's not going to be good enough, as the villagers do pull out and they burn 1 down. And aggression has been achieved, but what's next? You can't just keep pushing Streltsy. It's a switch up. Palace Guard now being pushed out by the Chinese player. But make no mistakes, folks. If he breaks off this aggression at any stage, Viper will come back with a vengeance within 3 minutes. Because that's what he's been waiting for. He's waiting for the opportunity to build up the Streltsy. And slowly, that is beginning to emerge. Now up to about 10. Throwing away 1 or 2. Zhugnu count is weak as. For some reason, that Streltsy, his gun had jammed. He decided to go in for the fisticuffs. Damn, look at him go. Damn, those Bardouche boys right there. Villagers coming out. Is going to address the ram now. Remaining Streltsy should be able to clean up anything that comes in. They have enough damage to more or less insta-kill any of these. With the new line of Streltsy as well, even the Palace Guard will insta-die. The veteran Zhugnu investment, it just doesn't feel worthwhile. I don't think you can push Zhugnu. I think you need Nesta Bees more than you need Zhugnu right now. Like, logically, you know, one-on-one, yeah, they trade pretty well, but realistically, the problem is your opponent is just eco-boosted way too much. Your numbers do look good, yes, but the quality of units is not. And I think that's the difference that matters here. Nesta Bees really changes everything. If you can get 3 of those in the field, that's where the Streltsy start to fall apart. I definitely agree with the Zhugnu being pushed, but not on its own. Here we go. All sacred sites under the control of Viper, so switches it up a little. Wants to make sure that it's actually upon his opponent to keep coming out like this. He doesn't want him to build up to a critical mass of cheaper units. That's the one downside with what he's doing here. These Streltsy are mighty pricey. There we go. I'll just update the stream title to actually include the name of the player. He's earned the right to be included. I don't know how this name translates. Maybe it will give us a reason to learn it, though. If he can dominate the Snake here from 132nd to take out the second place person on the rank leaderboard would be impressive, but it definitely feels like an uphill battle here, especially with the numbers growing. This is what I was worried about. This is what he was trying to stop. The moment that you get the Streltsy past the counter 10 at this state of the game, things start to get pretty flimsy for the Chinese player. And although he's pushing a lot of Zhignu, the line formation, like, it's going to allow you to individually engage very fast. And I feel like these units will get decent value. Like, you've got to keep in mind they have almost double the health of the Zhignu, being 80 health compared to 150. And remember, you have got the double time, so you can gap close upon them. Yes, you do have superior range by 0.5 tower range. You're not going to get much value out of it, though, due to that double time. I feel like Viper just makes it a point to do this, by the way. Just constantly pushing only one unit type. And it's going to be Streltsy backed up by Mangonels now. Now, Streltsy moving in. Palace Guard are going to bait their fire. And the Zhignu open up. Mangonels aren't there, but look at the recovery coming in. China's up into Imperial Age in the blink of an eye. He bought enough time. Streltsy backing up for the moment. Mangonels trying to wheel out now. They need to get in range of the Zhignu. Zhignu vital. Need to be taken out fast here. Mangonels forcing them away. The Streltsy are being massacred right now. Turn into porcupines with the amount of arrows being fired upon them. Trying to get into melee range or something here. And the trade-out once again looking decent for the Chinese player as he mops up the entire Streltsy battalion. Yes, the Mangonels will be standing, but these Streltsy are so expensive to replace, and you have to start question marking it. Is this a switch-up point? Can you continue to just keep pushing gunpowder units so obnoxiously like this? Or do you need a change in the scene? Do you need to bring out some sort of melee unit, some gap closer? Maybe Horseman could be a way of going, because if Viper brings Horseman in this composition, it will still reign supreme. However, it's going to be a harder fought-for victory now. With the China managing to reach up into the Imperial Age, this is where things get dicey. We're going to be talking Golden Hat Palace Guard. We're going to be talking probably about gunpowder units coming out on the other side. For the moment, we're only going to be talking about Zhignu as he continues to push him out, as they are still remaining a solid solution to the Streltsy. Well, I don't think Viper was necessarily expecting this. I mean, Viper, whenever he plays the Chinese, he doesn't actually really use the Zhignu. He's more of a gunpowder enthusiast, right? Like, I'm starting to think, like, we kind of get confused. We go from being Scandinavian to him being German. I'm starting to think he might be American as well, because this guy loves his guns. However, he hasn't really got guns to flex right now. After that amazing Imperial timing, now being caught up with like this, it doesn't bode well. You have to remember that you're dealing with a Chinese player who's taken the midfield, so he's starting to expand out. And also, because he's the Chinese player, you know he's going to be ahead economically. Look at the eco numbers, 89 to 121. That is the power of China. And now he just needs to boost that military up. Once that's capped, he'll look to move out faster. Oh, no. We don't take kindly to your religion around here. Get out of here. We don't want to learn about the orthodoxy. He really wanted that relic, huh? Damn, could you imagine relic into the conversion? Drop a keep there? Woo-hoo. No chance. Viper. Trying to get that troop together. And he went in with the Streltsy. He double-timed into the eco lines, butchering a bunch of them here. I don't know if he got enough here. Okay, I spoke too soon. I think he got like 15. Probably 15. I think that's about 10 Streltsy, so a decent trade there. Slowing down the eco, although it's a pricey trade, right? Like, you paid 180 resources at the end of the day for each of those. It feels like there does need to be a switch up. I do like Streltsy still being pushed, but Streltsy alone, it feels like it's going to be hard to manage long-term. Like, the surplus isn't really building at a great rate for Viper. Also, the gold's going to start to tap dry fast. He has got 4 of the 5 relics on the map, but that isn't going to be enough to field your army. Remember that Streltsy, with this many racks producing them, it's 90 gold per. So each one of these, like, I mean, you can afford 2 archer ranges, basically, off of this many relics. Because, remember, it's about 35 seconds, so maybe 3 archer ranges off of this many relics. You need to keep a lot of gold pushing in. The good news for Viper right now is he controls the midfield where gold remains. The bad news is that his opponent doesn't necessarily need it. Yes, he's hard on the gold right now, just trying to build up those surplus, but he can always fall back to taxation. That's something you have the Chinese that you don't have as the Rus. Look at the Zhignu now pushing out. Bombards in the field as well. Clock tower bombards, so not easy to take down. Viper running out of breach points to just weave in like he just did there. Like, I don't expect that to happen too much more often. However, with some horse archers, it could get interesting. The issue, however, is the palisades are already up, so can't really reach in. Has at least gone for the elite horse archer upgrades, juicing up their tile range as well. But nothing they can do here. And while that's happening, a push-in. Push-in that is not going to be pursued any further by our Chinese combatant. As he will look to back away, just waiting for the bombards to wheel in. Bombards that are unanswered. However, realistically, you want a second bombard here so you can insta-snipe down the mangonels. Once the mangonels fall, that's where it really starts to become a hands-up and surrender situation. Viper, it still feels like the big issue that I see in him only pushing Streltsy is like, you don't really have throwaway troops. This isn't really the Viper build that we're used to seeing. Usually when he goes gunpowder, it's a composite force, and he slowly escalates into a full gunpowder force. It feels like he's maybe getting a little bit baited by the fact that he only has to pay 90 food and 90 gold for Streltsy, compared to gunpowder's 120, 120. But if he finds raids like this with the horse archers as a contingent, it's not too bad. Like, he just has to do this, though. Like, this was a good sneak in. Did he wrap around? No, please tell me that's not. There's no way. There's no way that's accessible, right? The amount of villages you're going to lose as well, because you don't want to come back. Like, look at the positioning. Like, he knows this as well. Viper saw the main force. This is the mistake. This was all Chinese players, all the Chinese players' fault. I really wish I knew his name. He played forward like this. He revealed his army. Viper understood that was practically pop cap, and then he sends in a small group of horse archers to massacre the villagers. Villagers that don't have textiles either. This is big. This is really big. The amount of idle time, he finally cleans up with a small group of Palace Guard, but this slows you down so much. You do have surplus for the moment, but you haven't been constant gathering. This is a big frustration right now. It's buying Viper time to build up his own surplus and build up his military force. And that's exactly what he's doing now. Up to 64, getting close to being pop capped out. He's going to need it as well. Imperial Palace going up. Love this play coming out from the Chinese player, giving him that ridiculous vision. Look at the range on this. And also now accessing Yuan Dynasty. Everything is going to be juiced up on the speed. You can see it. Elite Zhugnu up to 1.29. These Spearmen up to 1.44. I left the best until last. Elite Palace Guard juicing it up at 1.58 movement speed. The two-legged cavalry here to play. They needed to be, because they have to gap close fast. There's a full range battalion coming out from Viper. Fight underway. Streltsy stand their ground. Mangonel trying to tug out the veteran Zhugnu before they can actually get through the Streltsy backline. I say veteran there, elite Zhugnu. The golden hats on each side. The wraparound Palace Guard going straight in on the sprint to make sure the bombards are protected. Zhugnu reigning supreme. The front line will not hold. What front line? Viper has nothing to keep the Palace Guard at bay. Sprues have to wheel away. Everything has to retreat. The Zhugnu are reigning supreme as they hail arrow fire upon the range format of Viper's army. And now they're going deep, and the Zhugnu fire, look at it. Slowly sieging down the TCs, the big siege working on those siege workshops, making sure the counter doesn't come out, because mangonels are the only answer you have. But it's a crappy answer. Ever since their nerf, they are underwhelming. You wish you were a Chinese player right now, so you had the counter to the Chinese in Nesta Bees, but you just don't. And he's relentless. 34 Zhugnu diving in deep, knowing these trades are worthwhile, getting rid of any siege, any Streltsy, even the horse archers. Great bang for buck. Maybe you lose your army, but it's just as quickly replaced, and you know that Viper will not be able to match that replacement rate. Right now, being completely food capped down at under 200 food. His income is diminishing fast. And so is his front line. Infrastructure falling, Springel's being cleaned up, Bombard still here to play. Siege Workshop looking to be taken down, so no value around the high armory anymore. And after that, you really only have Streltsy. That's all you have. There was no transition, there was no front line, and this is the gluttony, this is the weakness of what Viper has done here. He has exploited the Streltsy to the maximum in so many matchups, usually in choke point areas where he can have that kind of cannon foddery effect work to his advantage, where the Streltsy are able to only be exposed 1, 2, whatever at a time. But because of the format between melee and also the fact that he pushes Zhugnu on an open battlefield, the Chinese player has all the edge here. He has all the cards face up, giving him a full house, while Viper was trying to bluff him off with a pair of jacks. After that, it looks like Viper has got jack something here. Diddly square, I think is the polite term. Abbey Trinity down. High armory exposed. Everything's going to be exposed soon. Viper. This should have happened sooner. The veteran horsemen switch up far too late. Send these guys to the glue factory because they're not going to be useful on the front line. Bombard army up to 3. Viper, he impressed us with a godly Imperial timing. That rush looked so good. But there was no rush to follow it up. 17 minutes have passed since he hit Imperial, and at no point did you feel like he moved in for the decisive blow. The greed was punished. The Streltsy build up too slow, and that is how we arrive here. No way back against this. The standing army too strong. 5 bombards being wheeled to the front will make short work of the Golden Gate and the town center not far behind it. This is do or die. He has to go, and it looks like it is going to be the latter here. As Jugnu and Palscar blocking Mount starts to walk around his fallen landmarks to reach the bombards, and the bombards go straight in for the jugular. He can end the game right now. Horsemen have to rush forward. Jugnu can try to target them out. Passguard as well. Bombards being sniped down, but how much of your army is going to fall for this? And how much can you afford to replace? I think the answer to that is nothing. Nothing left for Viper. Yes, he gets rid of the bombards, but it picks him dry, drains him to the bone. He knows the Chinese player can just replace what was lost as he marches in with the Nest of Bees to get rid of the Primu Streltsy. There is nothing left in the Streltsy chamber here. The Chinese player, the one I wish I knew the name of, will slay the snake. And he made it look all too trivial. A long feudal time into a quick Imperial will reign supreme for the Chinese. My, oh my. Brilliant play, actually. The way that he exploited the fact that the Viper wasn't pushing him was phenomenal. I was a little bit questioning rather. Words. I'm definitely getting very hungry at that stage of the stream. I was getting a little bit worried about this choice to hang around feudal long. You know, the kind of bog standard Jugnu being thrown around like left, right, and center, and that was it. And I wondered how he was going to use it. But I think he actually done a phenomenal job in the way he used it. He actually let his economy reach a point where he could push Jugnu while slowly scaling up tech-wise. Understanding that actually the only way that Viper wins this game now is if he's able to realize his potential of Streltsy. He needs to reach like 20, 30, and then rush forward. He never got to that number before his opponent was up midway castle into Imperial. That's a problem. We talked about it earlier on. If you want to beat the Chinese in this matchup, you have to do it earlier. If this drags out into Imperial on Imperial, it's going to backfire for you heavily. And we saw exactly why. The Nest of Bees coming out was just too problematic. But the Jugnu was the turn we weren't expecting. He understood exactly what Viper wanted to do and understood how difficult it is. The way you allow the Rus to win in this situation is you give them 2 to 3 minutes at Imperial Age start. If they get enough Streltsy out, they blitz you. The problem with Streltsy, though, is with a 35-second production time, it's not a quick build-up. And that's something you can exploit. And that's something that was so phenomenally well done with the Chinese player. He built up a cheap, bulk standard force of Spearmen and Jugnu. He moved in, exploited the fact that Viper built that military infrastructure on the front of his base because he had to build slow-moving Streltsy, and then he never let up that pressure. This is how you play from behind. If you are that far behind and you fall back and say, I'm just going to greed tech up, what you're admitting is your opponent is going to realize his full potential. He's not only going to have a tech up advantage ahead of you, he's going to build a military force up to 200. You can't allow that. This is an education in exactly why you need to apply pressure when your opponent techs up. Don't be afraid of the fact that you're trailing tech-wise. Understand the leverages you have, because if you're playing on a similar level, you should have got value elsewhere. And that's exactly what the Chinese player done here with his economy to ensure that he could afford to throw away so many crappy units midway through that game.